Welcome to the week one go-to session. This is the first of 4 such sessions we're having this month. Thanks to the people who are in attendance, we will always have these sessions on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. It's great if people can attend live, but if not, these are recorded for posterity. They are archived. And actually, let me show. So here's our course. Things probably look a little bit different on your end, but this is essentially what you kind of see, right? A list of activities, a breakdown week to week. For the people who are here live, we all good? Jim, Patricia, in terms of we signed up at McGraw-Hill, we signed up at Turnitin. Obviously, you've signed up for this lecture because you are here. Yes, okay, good. Because we'll basically be focusing on, well, I'll make some overall comments about the class, but mostly we'll be focusing on week one, what we need to do, with primary emphasis on what we're working on this month and the first major assignment, which is this guy here. Okay, the 1.5, preparing to write assignment. But before we do that, let me begin with some kind of big picture stuff. First of all, welcome to English Composition. I believe that everybody enrolled in my 3 classes has taken this class before. And for whatever reasons, you're taking it again. Let's really try to get you passed, okay? I think I am the easiest instructor in the English department. I really am. I just want to make sure that people can write a focused, organized essay. I'm not looking for perfection, either grammatical perfection or like a publishable quality piece of work. I just want people to prove that, yes, they can write a basic essay, which means having some sort of start, an introduction, having some sort of closing, a conclusion, and then some paragraphs in between where you discuss your ideas one at a time. If you can prove that and mostly follow the instructions for the assignment and respond to my feedback by applying it to the next assignment, you should do well. Okay, there's no reason why people should not pass this course. I see it as a frustration when people do not pass. Okay, so let's get you through. Welcome aboard. Okay, I look forward to working with each and every one of you this month. This class moves fast, as you know. It's only 1 month. It's more like a 100-yard dash than a marathon. But the good news is it's over before you know it. So things can get intense. There are lots of activities to do. I don't think any of the activities are overwhelming, but sure, keeping up with them, especially as if you are, like so many of our students, juggling other responsibilities, a spouse or partner, children, 2 jobs, what have you, or dealing with personal issues. On top of all that, having to keep up with this class that moves very quickly can be a challenge. But you can do it. All this stuff that you see here, like the syllabus, course resources, office hours, you can find this information in the About section of your, it's a tab, I think, that's maybe on the left side of your screen. I don't think most of this information is that crucial. Like the syllabus is a generic syllabus about English class at Full Sail in general, not really the specifics of what we're doing in this class. The office hours, oops, I didn't mean to get to there. The office hours, in fact, can be found under this activity here in the Getting Started area, Meet Your Instructor. So there's a little table at the bottom where you can see my hours. But otherwise, I think you guys should have an About tab or something similar to it over here where you can find other good stuff. Let me get back to my presentation. Here's a little slide that has some quotes and some statistics. You can read that through as I talk a little bit here. I don't really have to convince people why this class is important because I think most people know. Like deep down inside, they know that being able to write, being able to communicate, right, with both the written word and in speaking is pretty important. I always say, look at anybody who's very successful in life. Nearly always, they tend to be really bright people, and they usually have strong writing communication skills. I don't care if you're a CEO or you're a rock star or a hip-hop star or an actor. Successful people tend to have pretty strong communication skills. And so even the people, let's say, don't feel super confident as a writer, or maybe they've had bad experiences in the past, a class that made them feel bad or made them question their ability, that has more to do with their past experiences and those past teachers than it really has to do with English class not being important. Again, I think most people understand that if you can write, that will help. even in very basic ways. Once you get out into the world and apply for jobs, things like writing a cover letter that is not filled with errors, or even a cover letter, even if it has been proofread carefully, but doesn't communicate ideas very clearly, or it's super general, like anybody could have written it for any job. It doesn't really specifically capture who you are and what you can bring to a company. So yeah, I don't really want to spend much time on this slide because I think most people at their foundations understand that, yeah, being able to write, being able to communicate is important. And that's really what we're trying to do in this class, which is introduce the basics. And we're going to do that with a single essay. Yeah, just one essay. There aren't multiple essays you have to write this month. There are multiple major assignments, but we are working toward one single essay, which in this class is an ad analysis essay. I think if everybody here has taken this class before, you've had this assignment, right? Because I think we've had this assignment for nearly 2 years. Probably we need to change things up, but yeah, so this is the single essay we were working toward. The difference, though, is that we were working on it one step at a time. And the visual you see here is simply to capture the world of advertising, right? That advertising is all around us. In 2019, or even just the late 20th and into the 21st century, it's sort of been democratizing in the sense that anything can be examined, right? People can speak very intelligently about, for example, comic books, superhero films, pop songs, television shows, right? There are people who, for example, are big fans of The Simpsons and will write quite eloquently about why that show is brilliant. Literally anything can be analyzed. So advertising, which is all around us, is a good sample. It's a good object for us to take a look at. So yes, the basic assignment that we're working on this month is for you to closely examine a television commercial or a print ad. Now, you don't get to choose whatever you like. Okay, there is a list of approved ads. And if you go to week 1, this first major assignment, okay, the 1.5 assignment, which is worth 15% of your grade. So yeah, it counts for a lot. If we go into this assignment and scroll down, there's a little video you can watch. But here's the list of approved ads. Okay, so I think I have 5 television commercials and 3 print ads. My strong advice, is to not pick an ad until after this lecture. When the lecture is over, because we're going to look at some sample ads and brainstorm what are some interesting things going on in the ad, then come back to this list. Try to look through all the ads. Most of them are short. Some of the commercials may be 30 seconds. There might be one that's 1 minute, but you can easily breeze through all of these. And then choose one, not based on whether you like the company or not. Like, lots of people love Apple because they have iPhones and iPads. But the Apple commercial is, I'd say, mid-level in terms of challenging. Like McDonald's is an easier commercial. Call of Duty is an easier commercial. Apple is some sort of in between. I can also tell you in advance that print ads are more challenging than commercials. Why? Because a print ad, and a print ad is, here, let me just click on one. Actually, let me click on this one because I want to scare people away from this one. I keep meaning to eliminate it, but usually I do a good job in the lecture of scaring people away from it. So here's a print ad. Pop-up ads. Goodbye. Right? So the challenge with a print ad is that it's entirely visual. So if you're not entirely comfortable discussing something that is completely visual, which means that, yes, in order to analyze it, you have to be comfortable discussing visual choices, then maybe you should stay away from a print ad. And the Chico ad is the most difficult ad in the entire list. I keep meaning to get rid of it, but I think I keep it on because I scare people away from choosing it. And those who do choose it sort of take the challenge. They sort of say, okay, he's talked about I should stay away from this ad. It's by far the most difficult. I'm going to tackle it anyway. And usually those people do a pretty good job with it. Okay? On some level, they are comfortable discussing visual choices, and they kind of want to show off that they can tackle the most difficult ad. But if not, there's no shame in staying away from it. Okay? So you have 5 television commercials, 3 print ads. Please, once the lecture is over, make your choice. And make your choice based on which commercial or which print ad can you already see various interesting elements going on. And we're going to talk about how to spot interesting elements. Because ad analysis, let me get back to my presentation. Oh, there is a note here about how rebuilders can use stuff from a previous class. But yeah, you have to create new content. You can't just hand in the old work completely, because chances are that previous attempt needed improvement anyway. So yeah, just uploading the same file again is not cool. I kind of recommend to start from scratch. Why not just pick a new ad, and then you don't have to worry about meeting this requirement that 30% of the content must be new. And turn it in shows me what percentage, because if you've handed in something to turnitin.com before and your submission for this class shows a similarity report of 99 or 100%, that means that, yeah, nothing has been changed. But okay, let's start talking about ad analysis and what to specifically look for. And let me begin by saying that ad analysis, let me describe what it isn't, okay? Yes, we are ultimately trying to answer the question, how do advertisers persuade their audiences? If you think about it, ad agencies, because it's not the corporations themselves like McDonald's or Apple that are literally making these commercials. They hire experienced ad agencies, spend oftentimes millions of dollars to have these ad campaigns created. So no detail that goes into the ad is accidental, right? These things are carefully thought out and planned. And your task with ad analysis is to examine some of those choices, to put yourself in the role of an ad creator, okay, or an ad designer, and really look at how is this ad constructed? How is it built? So ad analysis is not ad description. It's not ad overview. It's not ad summary. It's also not ad explanation, okay? Now that might not seem entirely clear right now. I'll help you if I sense that you're sort of drifting into those categories. But for example, ad explanation is where you literally explain the ad. You describe it, you explain what its message is, but in essence, anybody can already see that if they look at the ad, right? Most intelligent people can look at an ad and see what its message is. So yeah, ad analysis is not ad summary or ad explanation. It really is kind of like lifting up the hood of a car and examining the machinery underneath and examining the specific choices that are made. Now we'll get some practice at this. We will look at 3 sample ads during this lecture, and we will brainstorm together what are some interesting choices being made. To help with this, I think it's useful to think about different categories that these interesting choices fall under. Oh, okay. First I have to deal with this slide. I always forget the order of things. This is just a quick little visual that explains that this course is following something called the writing process. So by design, week to week, you will be taken through these steps. So week 1, we're here, brainstorming. You will choose an ad, you will look at it with care, and then you will, hopefully, by the end of this lecture, be able to spot some interesting things that are going on in the ad. Next week, we'll be here. Actually, we'll be in both of these arms or legs of the circle here, okay? You'll do some research. Yes, there's research required for this paper. You'll organize your thoughts. You'll write a draft in week 3 and get feedback. And then in week 4, you'll revise that essay to make sure that it's polished and in its best shape before you end the course. Okay. But yeah, each week of the course is devoted to a separate stage in the process, as shown here. There's a tiny little flaw here. Some versions of the course peer review is in week 4. Actually, in this class, peer review is in week 4. So that's a little bit off there. But yeah, essentially the big picture idea here is that every week we are following a different stage in the writing process. We are essentially moving step by step through the steps of the writing process. So you don't sit down and immediately start writing an essay. I want to sort of check all along the way that things are going well, because that will help you succeed. Oops. Okay. So this slide's a little bit out of order. Anyway, here are I like to think of when you're looking at an ad, what are the things you can focus on? I think it might be useful to talk about 2 general categories, okay? There are an ad's formal qualities. Another word for formal would be technical, okay? So formal doesn't mean like getting dressed up or being fancy. Formal means the form, the essential form. So this means things like color, sound, music, camera work, and so on. Lighting would be another formal quality. Technical stuff, like the nuts and bolts stuff of how the ad is put together. In print ads, yeah, formal qualities are usually pretty important because, again, print ads are entirely visual. So things like color, lighting, placement, like layout. Layout would be another formal quality. Those are usually pretty important. There are also what I like to call thematic qualities. And this is the non technical stuff, issues of theme, motif, character, story. For example, commercials may have a little story that they tell and have characters, etc. Okay, so keeping these things in mind, that we can try to spot things that are either technical choices or thematic choices. Let's look at a sample ad. And, well, let me go back. Hold on a second. Okay, I need to go backwards. There we go. So this is an ad from Jeep. Now, you don't see both halves of the ad at once. This is just showing you the visual trick. You only see what's on the left. But it might be hard to spot, but it says Jeep, see whatever you want to see. Okay, in a slight arc. Okay, that's the tagline of the ad. See whatever you want to see. And it's written right side up top, and it's upside down below. And the image here is a reversible image. Looked at one way, it's a giraffe's head. Yeah, that's a giraffe. Looked at upside down, it is a standing penguin, right? So it's a nifty visual trick. Now, this is a very, very spare ad. It's a minimalist ad. And yet, I would argue we can spot choices being made here. And if we think like creators or we think like ad designers, so imagine you work for an ad agency, what are some choices that have gone into this ad? You can type your response in the chat, and don't worry about right or wrong at this point. This whole ad analysis thing will be clear by the time the lecture is over. But I think it's sometimes best just to dive straight in. And even if you don't know the answer to something, just right now focus on like what are things that stand out to you? What are things that are interesting to you in terms of choices made in this ad? Anybody have any thoughts? I'm hoping people are typing away and that's what's causing the pause. Or people confused, like I don't know what to say about this ad. Most of you, again, have taken this class before, so I was hoping that this isn't completely brand new to you. So what are some elements that are going on here? Okay, Patricia says the color is bland, making it about the image. Yeah, and let's stay there, because I do think color is important. You're right, it is kind of bland, and it does absolutely. It makes the image stand out. Okay? But I would also point out, let's stay with color, or just even background. It has this beige color, right? This kind of khaki color. And it's not just a plain solid khaki or beige. It has this kind of fabric looking textile quality to it, right? Here's something that will help you maybe. Ad analysis is really about answering the question why. Why this background? Okay, why do that? Why give it this sandy beige fabric or textile looking background? Part of the answer, as Patricia said, is it does help the image stand out, right? The background is light. The image has a darker quality to it, so your eye is going to be drawn to the center. That's certainly part of it. And the other theories, why this? Why not white? White would still make the image stand out. Or why not a really, really light blue, baby blue? I mean, why is it this beige fabric woven quality to it? Any guesses? And this will get easier again when we look at the next ads. You guys will probably be able to spot things pretty quickly. The first ad is always the toughest. Think about who this ad is being made for. This is a Jeep ad. Why might this be appropriate for Jeep? Would this same ad work if this were a Lexus ad? Okay, good. Jim says Jeep is off-road, and the image of is a picture either way. Which Jeeps are into those upside down words. Okay, I didn't quite follow. But yeah, the beginning stuff. The image of Jeep. What is the image we have? The stereotypical image when we think of Jeep. We think of off-roading. We think of adventure. We think of safari. We think of, right? It's not a Lexus. It's not a Toyota. It's not a Honda Civic, right? And even though, yes, most consumers are not buying Jeeps to go off-roading or go on adventures, they're usually doing it to haul groceries or haul kids. But still, the stereotypical image of Jeep is that this is the vehicle that you see in movies when people go off-roading or go on safari. To a certain degree, I would argue that it's also connected to the military, right? Jim says people put those logos on Jeeps with the words upside down. It's a Jeep thing, implying they are rough and tumble. Okay, see, I'm not as familiar with that. This people putting logos on their Jeeps with words upside down. Okay, that's interesting because it's reinforcing something that Jeep owners are already familiar with. But I like what you said in the second part. That Jeep, yeah, the image is that it's rough and tumble. If you are going on an African safari to find giraffes, or if you are going down to the tip of South America to discover penguins, what vehicle would you stereotypically be in? You'd be in a Jeep, right? And so this background, which is reminiscent of sand, dirt, the textile fabric quality is reminiscent of literally khaki or canvas, like the material that's used not just for clothing, but for tents, or maybe even a canvas top on a vehicle, right? Like it has that kind of association, whether you know, whether you recognize it or not. Even if right now you're thinking, oh, wow, I didn't think of any of that. Now that I'm saying it, does it make sense? Or does it sound like I'm making some crazy leap? I would argue that it makes sense, right? That somehow this color, this woven fabric-y type of background fits Jeep more than it does any other vehicle. Okay, and that's what I'm talking about. It's not just ad analysis. It can't be just you pointing out things like the color is X or it shows Y, because that's you just describing an ad. Analysis means answering the question why. Why did they do this? Why did they choose this background? They chose this background because I think it fits the Jeep brand. And other things that are going on here. Actually, I'll open things up where there. I didn't mean to shut down conversation. Were there other things that people wanted to shout out that are going on here? Again, it's an incredibly minimalist ad. I can throw out one. You know, the animal imagery. Okay, we got this reversible image. And if what Jim is saying is true, that that Jeep owners, there's something about it's common to put some sort of logo on the car that's upside down. Maybe that is reinforced with the reversible image. But even if you don't know that, the decision, why is it an animal? Why isn't it not a reversible image where one way it looks like a, I don't know, a truck, and looked at another way it looks like a piece of furniture? Right? You could do this visual trick with just about any sort of imagery. Why does it use animal imagery? I think we've kind of already answered that question because, again, Jeep is what we think of. Okay, what kind of vehicle would you, and the tagline reinforces this, by the way, see whatever you want to see, which is referring to both the image, you can see whatever you want to see in the image, either a giraffe or a penguin, but also that in a Jeep you can go and see whatever you want to see. Okay, that off-roading, adventurous image. And yes, we think of Jeeps as the type of vehicle that we would go off and explore and discover in. So does this make sense to people? Because I'm a little bit concerned. A couple people have chimed in. Yeah, Jim, it does have that safari feel. Like the first time I looked at this ad, that's what immediately registered to me. And I think that's because of that kind of canvas, khaki quality of the ad, that canvas-like feel, right, which we associate with Jeep. There are other things we could focus on. Lighting, for example, it's darker in these four corners, lighter in the center, because that adds as a visual aid to draw your eye inward. As Patricia said, this is both a color and a lighting issue, that the image is darker, so set off against the paler background makes the image stand out. It's purposely spare because, again, the eye wants to go to primarily the image, and then secondarily the word Jeep. And both these images stand out because, again, there's nothing else going on the page. It's not a cluttered, it's a very, very simple ad. And then kind of fine print, you see the tagline, see whatever you want to see. So yes, even with very, very simple ads, we can see a bunch of things going on. By the way, I'm going to sound like a broken record this month, but I'm going to reinforce the number 3. 3. Threes are popular, right? We think of trilogies, like books that are written in trilogies, movies that are trilogies. So you also have to think in terms of threes. You need to spot three interesting choices, or sometimes I say interesting moves that the ad makes. Once you choose an ad, you have to be able to spot three moves that the ad makes. Okay, and those are moves that the ad's creators made, because you're going to build your entire essay around those three things. Those three things are going to be listed in your thesis, which we'll talk about near the end of the lecture. Okay, nobody can move forward unless you have a strong thesis statement, and a thesis statement is much simpler than you think. It's simply listing those three things. Okay, the Jeep ad uses interesting use of color, playful imagery, and then a third thing, lighting, maybe something to do with a tagline. Okay, you just have to spot three things. So those are going to be the three core things you discuss in your essay. Let's take a look at his second ad. This is an older ad. It's from the early 70s. I still like to use it because, one, there are a lot of things going on. And second, there are retro style ads. There are ads today that purposely try to capture the feel of in this case, the 1970s, or ads that try to capture the feeling of the 1980s. So the fact that this is truly an older ad, I don't think is that troubling, because again, we do see retro style ads. So again, I'll just throw it out there. We've already practiced with one ad. What are some things that are going on in this ad? And again, don't worry so much about right or wrong. Don't worry so much if you can't answer the question why yet. Just what are some things that are going on choice-wise that we can see here? Okay. This is another print ad. I'm going to take a sip from my coffee as I wait for people to toss out ideas. Think back to that list of kind of categories: formal elements, right? Technical stuff. Thematic elements, so non-technical stuff. Jim says tagline with the woman implying that MGBs are wild. Okay, yeah, so there are a couple different issues here. So there's a tagline, your mother wouldn't like it. What wouldn't the mother like? Well, yeah, as Jim said, there's an implication here between the woman and the car, that they're both. There's nothing wrong with the woman, there's nothing wrong with the car, but what would a stereotypical mother think? That the woman is a little bit wild and dangerous, and the car is a little bit wild and dangerous. And the ad is specifically appealing to men, right? Because men might be excited by the idea of owning such a car, because owning such a car makes them seem sort of wild and dangerous. Or that in such a car, maybe you could find yourself a woman like the one who appears in this ad, right? So yeah, there's definitely a connection between the tagline and the woman. Okay, good. Patricia makes a great comment. It is sexual with the color red and the woman and then the man staring at them. Great. Yes, color is very important here. Like, it's not an accident that we have these reds and these kind of warm oranges. Like, the color scheme here is purposely sensual. I don't want to say lurid. That's too strong a term, but you know what I mean, right? Sensual would be a good word. Red can also be danger, but here I think it's this idea of heat. Okay, there's a heated quality to the color here, and that is not accident. So if this is not one of the approved ads, but let's say you were writing about this. Yes, color would be definitely a specific choice that the ad makes, and it is intentional. Okay, they could have shot this a completely different way with a white car and it's daytime and it's bright and sunny, but no, it kind of captures this twilight feel or maybe after dark feel, and it's using the specific color scheme on purpose. Okay, so great. Other things, I mean, Patricia mentioned the man staring. Yeah, there's something there too, which is I would say maybe layout, like the visual choice to put the woman and the car front and center, not only to link them, woman, car, both being something that the stereotypical mother would not approve of, um, but yeah, also to literally put them front and center because they are the things that are being featured here. Okay. But yes, even this choice where the man is staring, is he staring at the car? Is he staring at the woman? Is it both? But still, I would argue these aren't accidents. They didn't just happen to snap a photo and this guy was just standing there. Okay. He's standing there because he needs to be in the shoot. Any other things going on that we could point out? Color is an obvious one. There's something else that's connected to color, very similar to color, that also we could talk about. Good, Patricia. Yeah, lighting. Okay. Which I would argue is kind of, sometimes lighting is completely distinct from color. But here I think it's operating under similar principles. But yeah, the lighting, okay, which is also purposely both darker in the sense that it's not bright daytime, but again, with these oranges, the lighting to create that kind of sensual image. I would even point to things like the environment. The poster here with Marlon Brando's name, and the title is cut off, but you can also see the title of the movie here, Last Tango in Paris. I don't know how many people here are film buffs, but Last Tango in Paris it's a terrific film. I think it came out in 72 or 73. It was nominated for Academy Awards, including Best Picture, but it is an incredibly sexually frank film. Even by 2019 standards, it is incredibly sexually frank. Has a lot of nudity, a lot of very, very sexually frank talk. Like it's a movie even in 2019 is pretty shocking to people. Uh, and yeah, in 73, I think when it came out, it was rated at X because it was so. Anyway, that's not accident. It's not accident that among the details involved here, that this is the movie that's being shown. Okay, so like everything in this image is not accidental. Other things, the way the woman is dressed. Okay, she's not wearing a summer dress, cotton summer dress. She is the image of what would have been in the 1970s an independent woman. Okay, she's braless. That's not an accident either, and that ties into again something that your mother, the stereotypical mother, wouldn't approve of. But it also says that yeah, this is a modern woman. This is an independent woman. This is at the time of. I wouldn't say the height of, but definitely with the feminist movement in full swing. So think of bra burnings and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the choice to put her front and center, and she's dressed this way, which by the way, I don't think is provocative. I don't think she's provocative or even necessarily sexualized. It's more that she's independent. She is sexualized in the sense that yes, male viewers are going to zero in on the fact that she's attractive and that she's braless. I'm just pointing out that there's nothing literally. She's not half dressed or anything. But yeah, she's kind of the independent of the, or a symbol of the kind of the independent woman. Um, the color scheme, okay, even her yellow shirt connects to kind of like the yellow lighting. This color scheme that's again warmer, more sensual. None of this stuff is accidental. So if this were one of the approved ads, you have lots of things to talk about, lots of moves that this ad makes. You just have to be able to list 3 of them. It could be color, lighting, and setting. It could be color, layout, and one of those other things. It could be the image of the woman or the linking of the woman in the car, right? You just have to spot 3 things that you can talk about. Good job. I'm not hearing from everybody, but that's okay. I hope other people are at least eavesdropping on the comments that are coming forth, because again, you're going to have to do this with your chosen ad. Whether you choose the Apple ad, the Call of Duty ad, the Altoids print ad, the Allstate ad, the Salvation Army ad, you're going to have to look at it with care and be able to spot 3 interesting things that are going on, 3 moves. We have one more to look at. This is a television commercial. It's only 15 seconds long. I have no way to play it, though, without this URL doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to give you the correct URL in just a second in the chat. But if you have a device that has sound, I'll encourage you to watch it real quickly. If you don't, just hang in there, okay? But anyway, here's the URL coming right at you. I will go quiet for about 30 seconds so you can watch the ad. Then we'll talk about it. Now, when you have watched the ad, you can just jump right into the chat and start listing stuff. If you are unable to watch the ad or don't, I can show it to you. I can just let it roll. The problem is you won't be able to hear it. I'm sort of hinting at what's might be important here because you need to hear the sound. But anyway, here's what the image looks like soundless, or the commercial, excuse me. Okay, so what are some things going on in this ad? Again, think more in terms of choices, moves that the ad makes. Patricia says right away the music makes you think of old sexual moments in movies. Bingo, awesome. That is a significant move that the ad makes, and it is intentional. And Patricia not only spots it, but she explains it. I'm hoping it's just because Patricia zeroed in on that, and it's not because maybe it's been used in a past class. But either way, it's awesome. Okay, because music. If you hear music in an ad, think about why this music. Okay, and it may not be always as obvious as this Diet Coke ad. The music might not strike you as that important, but you might want to listen to it and say, okay, is the music, for example, changing during the ad to match the emotional mood? So when the ad gets more intense, the music gets more intense, or when the ad turns sad, the music turns sad. In this case, though, music is an important move that this ad makes, and answering the question why, which is always behind analysis, is also explained in Patricia's comments. That yes, the music choice here is intentional. It's a send up. They're sort of having fun with the idea of what sexy music sounds like. Those of you who couldn't hear the ad, it's got that kind of funk. It has a kind of funky waka waka sort of vibe to it. And yes, that's intentional. Okay. Some people even said that it reminds them of bad music from adult films, or it reminds them of comedies that they've seen, where again this kind of funky music is played whenever there's a sexual moment. But yeah, Diet Coke is having fun with that. Jim says, and then there's the tall, dark, and handsome part. Get a taste seems provocative. Yeah, okay, so I hope we can all agree that this ad is playful. Okay, it's humorous. It's having fun. It's having fun with its choice of music, with its purposely choice of what is almost a parody of what sex or sexy music is supposed to sound like. So is, the decision to call this tall, dark, or excuse me, this tall glass of Diet Coke, tall, dark, and handsome. Because when do we usually refer to tall, dark, and handsome? It's when we stereotypically refer to a handsome man. And Diet Coke, which is heavily aimed at women, I drink Diet Coke, but yeah, it's largely, it's overwhelmingly a female directed ad. Coke Zero, by the way, was created to appeal to men. So Coke Zero is a product that, listen, you could be a woman and drink it. Just like I do. I like Special K cereal, which is overwhelmingly a cereal that women eat, but there's nothing in the cereal that's problematic for men to eat. There's nothing about Diet Coke that is specifically female. There's nothing about Coke Zero that is specifically male. But yes, Diet Coke is overwhelmingly aimed at a female audience. So yeah, the tall, dark, and handsome is typically how we describe a handsome man, but here it's being used to refer to the glass of Coke. So part of the humor thing, okay? Patricia says, plus the gray color makes the Coke stand out as well as the soda. Yeah, there is that too, right? So the word Coke is in bright red and against this gray background, and even here too on the bottle. It stands out. I would even also, and I'm just guessing here, but the background has this kind of, what do they call it? Is burnished the right word? What do they call it? Like when the back of your phone has that kind of brushed. I don't know if this is brushed really, but it kind of has that sleek kind of gray color to it, right? And maybe there's something there about uh, wanting Diet Coke to see very slick and sleek and modern. Okay, um, like it almost design wise touches the same pleasure center that iPads do and iPhones. Maybe that's just a 21st century convention that we like things that are sleek and modern, even if it's just a commercial for Coke. Yeah, Jim, brushed aluminum. Like the can bottles, the same. Yeah, have you seen those? Yeah, the bottle here, but also in the stores, they're making these really, really attractive looking cans sometimes that I would argue is part of this whole movement that things that are sleek, things that are minimalist, things that are futuristic almost seem very cool. And maybe that's driven by tech products and tech ads. But this is another, if you just look at the screen here, I don't know, I think it's quite pretty to look at. So yeah, there are visual choices being made here. Um, there's one more big one that we're missing, and I'm going to go back to the very beginning here. It's not the words, it's not the music. Yeah, Patricia, the camera. And again, we've pretty much explained this ad pretty thoroughly, but where do we see that sort of camera work typically? Where it pans up or down? Again, we see it, yeah, when checking someone out. And it's common in film, especially when it's a woman, that the camera slowly pans up or down her body in a kind of either striptease or reverse striptease kind of motion. Um, if the camera does travel up and down slowly a man's body, it's usually for comedy because we're so used to that being done to women in film that if it's done to a man, it makes us sort of laugh because we're not used to men being portrayed that way. Um, I don't know if this is a dated reference. How many people have heard of the film The Naked Gun, a comedy film that came out in the late 80s? Lots of people kind of know it still, but there's a very, very funny scene in there because Priscilla Presley, the first wife of Elvis Presley, might have been his only wife. I can't remember if he remarried. Anyway, she was the female lead in the movie, plays Leslie Nielsen's love interest. And there's a scene where we first meet her, and the camera starts to pan. It starts, I believe, at her feet and keeps going up. But anyway, the visual joke is that it keeps going up and up and up her legs. That you see her kneecaps twice. So there's a visual joke of what and that joke only works if we know that the camera panning up or down a woman's body is so familiar to us that you can have fun with it, that you can play with it, right? So yeah, this is a humorous ad that is intentionally making lots of choices. Music, that's key. Tagline. Be careful with tagline because sometimes I have students choose the Call of Duty ad and literally explain the tagline, which is there's a soldier in all of us. And then I have to be the mean instructor and point out, okay, but who doesn't know what that tagline means? Like the tagline is so self-explanatory, I'm not sure it's analysis. Whereas here, even though the tagline "Tall, Dark, and Handsome" seems obvious too, there might be some viewers who don't quite pick up on, oh, okay, tall, dark, and handsome. It's because it's being applied to the glass of Coke rather than a person, and that tall, dark, and handsome is used to refer to handsome men. And this ad, which is directed at women, is playfully using that. Okay, in other words, there are things to explain to the reader. Whereas in the Call of Duty ad, I don't think there's much to explain. Yeah, there's a soldier in all of us. It kind of just says everything. I'll help with these things, by the way. I know it can be sometimes a challenge to spot three interesting things going on in a given ad. And um, actually, let's talk about that. We have about 13 minutes left, so let's talk about thesis statements and what your first major assignment is. Here, let me just skip a bunch of this stuff. That isn't terribly important. Okay, so here we go. Narrowing your focus. I mentioned earlier, everybody has to have a thesis. Nobody can move forward until they have a thesis. I also mentioned that, to think in terms of threes. You have to spot three 3 moves that your ad makes. Not just 3 general things that you see or 3 things that you can describe. No, 3 things that you can spot and explain why. Why this lighting? Why this color? Why this music? Why this camera work? Okay, if you're answering the question why, you're analyzing. So a thesis is like the roadmap to your paper. It sets the terms of your paper. At its most basic, a thesis just says the McDonald's ad uses A, B, and C, or features A, B, and C. And then your essay is going to discuss in detail A, B, and C. So if we think back to the convertible ad with the woman, right? Your mother wouldn't like this. You will spend time talking about, for example, color in one of your paragraphs. If color is one of the things you are interested in, you would explain what colors appear in the ad, right? These soft glowing oranges, these bright reds, and then you would explain that these are sensual colors and that this is an ad that plays with that sort of imagery, okay? But yeah, you got to spot 3 things, and they need to be listed in a thesis. So here are 2 examples of thesis statements, and these are from 2 of the ads we just looked at, the Jeep ad and the Diet Coke ad. So here is a thesis for the Jeep ad. Through the use of simple imagery, playful imagery. Through the use of, I can't read because the control panel is blocking. Through the use of simple color, that's 1, color. Playful imagery, 2. And a double meaning tagline that reinforces theme, that's 3. The Jeep's See Whatever You Want to See ad appeals to the inner adventurer inside everyone to unlock a hidden enthusiasm for Jeep. But the important thing here is that you notice that I've listed 3 things. Color, 1. Imagery, that animal imagery, 2. And double meaning tagline, 3. And then you mentioned the company or the name of the ad. See Whatever You Want to See ad appeals to the inner adventurer inside everyone. Okay. Here, I'm going to get away from this for just a second. Let me see if I can open a blank Microsoft Word document real quickly. Okay, so a basic thesis says the blank ad uses blank, blank, and blank in order to blank. Now that might seem convoluted, but it's actually very, very simple. Okay. So let's see, which ad? Okay, we didn't deal with the I don't have a sample thesis for the convertible, which is MG. So I could say the MG, your mother wouldn't like it ad uses sensual, I know I was misspelling there earlier, color, meaningful setting, and what's the third thing I could have mentioned? I don't want to waste too much time. And purposeful lighting in order to convince men to purchase the convertible and feel young and wild. Okay, I don't think that's the greatest wording. I would work on it, especially the second half. But you get the gist, right? We're listing 3 things. The MGV, your mother wouldn't like it ad, use essential color, meaningful setting, and purposeful lighting in order to convince men to purchase this convertible and feel young and wild. I don't like the wording of this at all, but okay, I could fix that. But the important thing is here, do you get the gist of what I'm saying? You have to choose an ad and be able to spot 3 things and put them in a sentence that captures all this. So if we go back to our examples, here's the Diet Coke one. Okay, the Diet Coke Tall, Dark, and Handsome ad uses sexually charged language, so in other words, that tall, dark, and handsome stuff, seductive music, and slow camera movement to convince sophisticated women to buy into the idea that drinking Diet Coke is as fulfilling as a heteronormative romance. That's just fancy speak for a relationship between a man and a woman, okay? Because yes, it's playing with heteronormative things. A gay woman would not maybe respond to the tall, dark, and handsome line, okay? But 3 things. And you notice you do have freedom in how you want to arrange things. Here, the name of the ad is said at the very beginning. Whereas in the Jeep example, it's withheld until the end. Okay, so yeah, you have some freedom in how you want to structure and how you want to word things, but the important thing is you are making a definitive statement about the ad, what three things you see going on. And this is going to set up the entire paper because, and I will share with this with you later, but I have a sample essay that I wrote because I wanted to do the assignments that I asked my students to do. So yes, I sat down and wrote an ad analysis essay. I just made up a name, Jane Student, but that's me. Okay, and this is for the Jeep ad. Um, and later you will have access to this essay because some people learn best through example. So once they see an example of a fully realized ad analysis essay, sometimes things click. Sometimes things become much clearer. Okay. Um, and you can see here's my thesis that's highlighted, the same one you just read with my three things listed: color, imagery, tagline. And that sets up the structure for your entire paper because yes, you'll have a general introduction that ends with your thesis, and then you just deal with those three things you notice one at a time. So here's my paragraph on my first point: color. So this entire paragraph is about color and all the things we talked about, right? How the beige background and the fabric quality of it brings to mind burlap, canvas, khaki clothing, and how this connects to Jeep. Here's a paragraph entirely about the animal imagery, right? Entire paragraph about this. And then finally, a paragraph about the tagline. I hope that I did something more interesting than just literally explain what the tagline says. Then there's a short conclusion where you sort of echo what you've talked about and bring the essay to a close. That's all you have to do in this class. I tell people this class and the assignment you have to do, this ad analysis essay, is much simpler than people believe. If you can write a 5-paragraph essay, right, built around you identifying 3 interesting things going on in your chosen ad, you should be fine. Yeah, there are other things we'll talk about later. There are grammar issues, there are APA issues, like how do you do things like this, cite properly? How do you create references? We'll get into that as well. Um, but yeah, it's not as difficult as people think. As I said, you should begin, and let me quickly, we only have 5 minutes left, but yeah, now that we've getting near the end of the lecture, now you can go back to the list of approved ads and choose one based on not what you think of the company, like, oh, I love McDonald's, but rather which ad can you already see different things going on. So here's another print ad. Oh, you know what? This link no long. I have to get a new link. Or it said click something to continue. Hold on, let me see if this is still working. So I think one of them might have a broken link. Oh no, okay, it still works. Like here's an ad for Altoids. We're not going to discuss this one because I don't want to give away things that people might choose it. But already in your brain, think, could you spot 3 things to discuss in this ad in terms of choices made? If this one seems difficult, then find an ad where you can more easily spot interesting things going on. Okay. Um, if you're using an older ad from a past class, which is allowed as long as 30% of the content is new, um, go back to that ad and look at it again based on what we've just discussed. Maybe last time you took the class, you weren't able to give full attention to the class, or maybe the idea of ad analysis just never made sense to you. But hopefully this lecture has made it clear. So go back to that ad. You know, other people have ads, other instructors have ads for Walgreens, and I don't know, someone's using a Sainsbury food dancing ad, supermarket chain. Okay, go back to that ad and look at it anew based on what we've talked about in this lecture. Um, Real quickly, oh, I'm already here. Anyway, this is the assignments you need to work on. It is a worksheet. So let me open it up real quickly. Most of it is self-explanatory. First, this worksheet might be a little bit different than one you've used before. So yeah, be careful, okay? Uh, for this assignment, everybody's content should be mostly new because, yeah, you shouldn't be using the old worksheet. You should be using this one. Um, some basic questions like what's the title of the ad? What company or organization is the ad created for? Yeah, basic questions. Describe the ad as if you're explaining to someone who has never seen it before. This matches whatever worksheet you've probably used in the past, but then it gets into very specific questions because we want you to spend quality time with the ad and really look at things. Okay, so for example, The next several questions involve tactics that may be used in your ad. Just so there's no confusion, tactics refer to, I should probably match my language to the worksheet's language, but these are the moves that I talk about, right? The three interesting elements, the three moves that the ad makes, the three tactics. Okay, so it will ask you, like, was there a story or narrative to the ad? If so, describe it, and so on. Because it's asking you to look very, very closely at, for example, color or narrative. If there's a story being told, here's one that's about, if it's a video ad, what types of sound or music were used. Yeah, so this worksheet's a bit more detailed than maybe the ones some of you have had in the past, but this is because we really want you to take a close look at these issues and not just forget about them. Here's another one. Describe the camera movement. Okay, if it's a video ad, or if it's a print ad, describe the layout, where the images are in relation to each other. Uh, so yeah, it's a bit more in depth. And finally, you're asked for 2 stabs at the thesis. And you have a sample thesis here. I'm going to try to replace this if I can with the thesis we've used in this session, in this lecture. But yeah, this is where you will create your single sentence, where you list the 3 things that you spotted. We ask for 2 thesis statements simply because maybe one is worded better than the other, or maybe you notice a half dozen things in the ad, but you're not sure which 3 are your strongest. So you spread them out between 2 different thesis statements. And this allows me to be able to tell you this one's worded a bit better than the other, or I like these 3 ideas that you've pinpointed. You've listed a whole bunch, but I think these 3 are your best. Now put those in a single sentence, because that's what's going to help you as you move on. Because nobody can move forward without a clear, strong thesis. And for people who struggle spotting things, yes, I will help. For people who just aren't comfortable with looking at a commercial or looking at a print ad and being able to spot 3 interesting moves, 3 tactics that the ads creators have used in the ad, I'll give you ideas, okay? But I want to see you sort of try first. And then if I see that you're struggling, sure, I'll suggest things. I think I have a list of, like, for most ads, usually at least half a dozen things to think about. Anyway, that's what it's 8 o'clock, so we actually finished. We started at 5 past the hour, so it's gone about 55 minutes. I do not like to go longer than an hour because I lose people. So if you are comfortable with what we've discussed, you are free to go enjoy your evening. I'm not going to make you stay here. I thank you, in fact, for showing up to this first session. I will hang out a bit, though, if people have questions, either about the first assignment or about ad analysis or this class as a whole. But thank you so much. I'm going to hang out a bit, but you're free to leave when you wish. And now I get to finish my cold coffee. Thank you, people. You're welcome, Jim. Have a good evening. A little bit slow with the first ad, but that's normal. But awesome job with the next 2 ads, the convertible ad and the Diet Coke ad. It seemed like people were, it's almost like you need to get your feet wet with that first ad, the cheap ad, and then things click. Then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I really need to focus on this ad and spot interesting choices that were made in the ad. So good job overall, people. Not getting many questions, which is perfectly fine. I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So I'm going to stop the recording now.